Hey, welcome to another splendid edition of the Beyond Sight podcast. I'm your host, Hasan Clay, and I thank you for tuning in. As always, I can only do this with people who are trying to check me out, right? So thank you for tuning in on this. But got something for you. We've been dealing with various different topics for the last several weeks, and I want us to understand this, and I want to put this out in space right now so you can hear the direction I'm going. Every emotional conversation doesn't deserve your participation. And many people who are dealing with high conflict personalities only want you to engage so they can get control over you. What does that look like? Because many of us engage in conversations and high conflict conversations without really understanding that this is what you're doing, right? So you jump into emotional fights that you don't have to answer the invitation to you get caught up in trying to deal with people. Why? Because you are trying to establish your position with them. And that's what we're going to talk about today, positioning. And when we when we're thinking about positioning, what really happens is I'm letting you know this is where I'm coming from. This is my position. This is where you get caught up at. If you don't establish your position at the rip of what it is you're trying to say, what people who have high conflict personality traits, what they're going to do is challenge your position. And they're going to see where it is that you may move, where it is that you may slip or falter, you got to get shaky about. And once they figure you out in that situation, oh, they got you. It's like they got you by the nose. They're just pulling you all over the place. They got like a ring in your nose, and they got the finger in that ring, and they just bringing you, just moving, and you just moving along with it. And it doesn't feel good, right? Because it feels like at this point, now I'm being discredited, I'm being disregarded, I'm being diminished, I'm being negated, and I have something that is really bothering me. But if you don't know how to maintain your position, then this is what you're going to get. And I want you to think about the times that it felt like somebody just just maneuvering you, moving you around, and you're not really getting what it is that you were looking for, and you felt kind of just in a bad. You felt like you were in a bad situation, and you didn't know how to get out of it. Well, this is what took place. If you have a position, this is one thing I want everybody to learn here today. A couple of things I want us to learn today is that when you have a position, the first thing you need to do and establish your position early is do not move, remain disciplined. Do not move off your position. This is the quickest way for you to lose out in what it is that you're trying to say. Because once you start tapping into this scenario, tapping into that scenario, bringing in what you did, what happened 10 years ago, what your mama said, about all this other type of stuff. When you start getting into those situations, the person with a high conflict personality, now they feel like they got you. And what they're going to do is then have you running down that rabbit hole. And I know many of my clients who know me, and they know when I start talking about these rabbit holes, when you jump in a rabbit hole, what happens if If you jump in that rabbit hole behind that person, you automatically lost position. And I want you to think about what's happening with this rabbit hole. If you chasing this situation, you're really kind of getting dirt thrown back in your face. I want you to just look at this scenario, right? I want you to envision what I'm saying here. And you getting this dirt thrown back in your face. They the one leading the way. They know which way they're going. And they just throwing dirt back and you trying to get behind them, you chasing them and going on. And by the time you start in this rabbit hole, you could be in Atlanta. By the time you come out this rabbit hole, you in LA. That's a lot of dirt. It's a lot of time. It can be very exhausting. It can be very trying. Your nerves trying, and you want to know why people, when they get caught up, then they see, they start having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and things of that nature there, because the stress level of knowing, if I deal with this person, this is what's going to happen. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to be taken seriously, and they're going to switch this back up on me. Either they're going to be a victim or they're going to start switching out on me. It's like I've done something wrong. And this is person who have high conflict personality traits. Now I want us to remember something. When I say high conflict personality traits, or HCP, I'm not talking about anything there's a diagnosis for in what clinicians call the DSM-6. So, and this is the manual for disorders and things in nature. Let's talk about all the disorders. Now, the people who have conflict personality traits, and you can guess this in my book, Understanding, Taming the Storm, Understanding and Overcoming High Conflict Personalities for a Peaceful Life. And I talk about these type of different things, these type of people who have these traits like personality, borderline personality disorder, or narcissism, or they have the traits. They haven't been classified as the disorder, having the disorder itself. They have the traits of it. If they have the disorder, they have the traits, it's not no good for you because they're still going to handle you like they full blown, right? But they just haven't been classified. And some of y'all get out here and y'all go to checking out these websites and want to look at these things, and this person has this, and that. They have narcissistic personality disorder, and all this old type of foolishness here. When you are not qualified to make that type of assessment, only thing you're looking at is a tool to somebody. Really, I believe whoever put those tools up there like that really are doing a disservice. But there's a whole bunch of things on the internet. All right, so there's nothing you can do. The internet's free. There's nothing you can do about the internet. So it is what it is at that point. But getting out of that understanding and having some type of edification or education about a particular thing will help you learn how to deal with people better without labeling them. Because once you label a situation, you actually lose ground again because you are really not qualified to label a situation. Not to something like that, personality disorder. That person has to be clinically seen, right? And so, but that was just a sidebar situation. But I want us to look at how when you lose position, how you lose position is you don't stay on topic. You allow a situation to kind of continue. For instance, let's say you're dealing with someone who is not fiscally responsible, meaning they keep messing up the money. You paying bills, you can't pay bills because they're buying shoes or buying clothes or buying bags or going on trips and things of nature there, and they come back and they got to pay their rent, and now they need somebody to help them pay their rent. But they didn't have a ball on their life They've been out partying, they doing this, they doing that. They done a lot of things. I just use that as a scenario. And you want to talk to that person about how they're not fiscally and how their lack of fiscal responsibility is messing up your home. Then they start talking to me, oh, you just don't want me to have no fun. You just boring. Are you just this? Are you just that? And we can you always talk about what we can't do, what I can't do. What about when you go out and buy this? Or you go out and drink coffee every day or every morning? Or you do this, you do that? I ain't trying to stop you from doing what you do and all this. Okay. Y'all have seen this scenario before. And what you do is then get caught up in the defending why you go buy you some coffee. Why you spending $5 or $10 when they spending five or $600, right? And now you trying to justify why you spend it, and you got caught in the conversation of spending $10. Here's the dirt. You're in the rabbit hole now. Here's the dirt back in your face. And at some point, you know what? Okay, you know what? I just won't spend no money no more. You just tell me what I can do, and I won't do nothing. Okay, now they're guilt tripping you into something, and still ain't got onto the position of how their movement is making it hard for you guys to budget your life, and you have a problem with it. You're making, or you might be a person who's too fiscally tight, and then it's allowing other people to kind of have this disservice, and they coming to you, and then here you go. Well, you always want to spend money on this. You want to do 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 that, and then you start trying to defend your position. And I want us to look at this acronym. I want us to look at this acronym of DEAR, right? The D is for defend, the E is for excuse, the E is for explain, and the R is reaction. When you start defending, what normally takes place is this here. You start making some excuses for what it is that why it is you had this position. Then you start explaining and over-explaining your position. You go to talking entirely too much, right? Entirely too much. Everything is, you done rambled on for like a straight hour trying to defend your position, right? Explaining your position. And then when they say something else crazy to you, then you're going to react. And I know people who they just blow their top, and then that's the reaction piece. They're not responding to what's going on. That's the reaction piece, and they just really they snarling in the face. They sweating profusely. Their eyes are red. They getting hoarse in the voice because he's doing all this screaming. And a lot of them, I want y'all to think about how many times you ran into this situation. This is because that person is not emotionally regulated. And a person who has high conflict personality traits understands your lack of emotional regulation. And what they're going to do is they're going to pull you in, pull you off the position that and they're going to have you chasing around, doing different things and talking different ways and getting off subject. And there you go. They have effectively gotten out of it. Right. So next, if you're looking at a person who is dealing with positioning, what happens is they allow you to follow them around and keep moving the goalposts, right? And you kicking here. We look at the goalposts and you're kicking through the goalposts to the uprights, but then you move it over here, and then you move it over there, and then it's like, dang man, I can never just set my sights where I need to be because you always move in a situation. That's because you haven't gotten yourself centered. You haven't gotten your life and your understanding of your life and your mind and your heart. It hasn't gotten centered. But what I mean is that you have to stabilize yourself. And so, therefore, the wind blows. Wherever the wind blows, you're liable to go that direction. A person who has high conflict personality traits can identify that in you, and then allow you to kind of be. First, you're talking about being fiscally responsible. Then you're talking about how you don't take out the garbage, and then you're talking about how you ain't cleaned up in 2 weeks. So then you're talking about when you just start this whole conversation out being fiscally responsible. If you have all those positions, then stay at one position, clear that out first, then move to the next position. And in some instances, we call that flooding. When some people do that, we call that flooding. I'm trying to give all these positions all at one time. Some people tune off and they tune right on out. They don't got all these positions, whatever. Then they go to making you feel insignificant because they done tuned you out. And now you're not going to get anything because they tuned you out. Because you got all these different things because you don't know how to stay centered on one thing at a time. Dealing with some people don't have a lot of people don't have the capacity, and this is the problem. Probably multitasking a little bit. Our culture has called it multitasking. We probably have to have a better understanding of multitasking, right? But and when we're saying multitasking, meaning doing something basically at the same time, doing a couple of things relative at the same time. So maybe say I have 2, 3 different projects going on. I do this project for a minute. I stop it. I have maybe I have a milestone I want to meet at this point. I want to be at this particular juncture right here, and then I can move to my next one, and then I can kind of do that and have a milestone where I can meet at this one, and then maybe. But most people can't do more than 2 things at a time. That's not really multi. That might be bi. You know, 2 things, by meaning 2, right? Multi being more than 2, right? Most people aren't able to do a multitask situation. And they're not able to have a multitask conversation either. Most people can't have 2, 3 conversations in one conversation. And this is what happened. People start trying to get everything out. If you got an issue, you got everything out. Now you actually working from a high conflict personality trait yourself at that point. You try to get everything out, and you just flooding that person who you coming and who you talking to, and they finna tune you out. Then you mad because they just tuned you out, and you think something's wrong with them because they tuned you out. No, you were a person who was doing too much. Right? You're doing too much. I'm sorry, you just doing too much, and you got a lot going on, and I'm not really feeling all that you got going on. I'm just gonna be honest with you, right? You just doing a lot, man. You're doing a lot, and so here's what happens: you have to learn how to manage yourself a lot better in doing that. If you have a position, speak to one position, clear that position out, then come with the next position, right? Um, I had a friend once, that was many, many years ago, guy, right? And I used to always come messing with him, always talking to him. He said, man, every time I turn around, you got an issue. That's what he used to tell me. Every time I turn around, man, you got an issue, right? And I laugh it off, right? But how I was presenting myself is like, it's this, then it's this, then it's this. And I'm never clearing out anything. I'm just keep raising issues, right? Just complicated for no reason at all. You just want to complain. That's what it really shows up as. you're not really dealing with your position. You're dealing with complaints, you know, and you just, if you want to vent and, have a conversation, let me know that you're trying to vent. And we have a different conversation when it's about venting. And you might be venting about a number of different situations because it requires only thing it requires from me is listening if you feel like venting. But if you have an issue, you only need to bring one issue, press it one at a time. And in that frame, maybe only two. In that setting, you can bring one, you got to clear that out, and then no more than the second one after that. You're trying to bring me 3 or 4 all of the same one setting. I'm like, okay, you're doing too much. I got time to keep sitting here for all that. Right? Maybe come back to me a couple of days. Let me figure out these 2 things that you're telling me right now. And that's what I tell some of my clients when we're talking. Let's work on these 1 or 2 things right here. Let's have a conversation about it again. I want you to think about what was said, have a conversation about it, and then seeing what actions you actually can take in order to give that person contentment or satisfaction in a situation, right? And so therefore, you don't have to worry about all the other things that plagues having meaningful conversation. And last but not least, kind of talked about this before, is energy level. When you have in a position, when you're trying to bring a position, first, bring the position as calmly, as deliberate and methodical and intentional as you possibly can, right? Meaning that maybe some instances I've had a situation where even bringing something to me, they had to write that stuff down first and put it in their phone, write it down, kind of, and even bring it to so they can get my undivided attention about it, and say, "Can you listen for a minute? I have something. Can you listen?" So that let me know that okay, it's something that you may have. It's going to be a tinge of anxiety in that, because if somebody's saying something that maybe you'd have done something you probably shouldn't have done to them or whatever they felt like you did. So you may have an attention there, but that's okay. That type of anxiousness is okay because it's not going to go beyond a certain point because you want to give that person the opportunity, the liberty to kind of speak their mind and things of that nature there, right? And you want to keep that tool up. You want to keep the energy of that kind of low, meaning you want to be as calm as you possibly can, even though it might be a situation that got you kind of, vexed in a sense. You still want to present it as calm as you possibly can, right? You don't want to be in a position where it's all this sarcasm, all this clapping back, all these witty sayings, all these snipes, and all this is taking place. Right? You definitely don't want that to be in a position, and you don't want to be caught in that, and you want to be able to allow a person to be able to speak their mind without them fearing that coming back at you or back at them. And so in this, if we're then saying how to keep the energy down, because once people escalate, guaranteed a fight is going to ensue. It's verbal, might be physical. It's punitive. It's punitive repercussions that's going to take place. Maybe somebody's going to get isolated and froze out. People aren't talking to each other. You're walking past each other. You're not talking to each other, not speaking to one another. You're looking at each other side eye. You're not treating each other well. This is a continuation of high energy, right? Or bad energy, right? And so you want to be in a position of making sure that all those things don't take place. If you're in a relationship with someone and you're dealing with them, you want to continue to show, as much love as empathy as you possibly can, even though y'all might be at a little odds here. You want to show care. How can I say, how can I feel like you care for me? This is toxicity. And I don't even like that word. This is toxicity, talking about you care, and then going off on me, cursing me out, hollering at me, uh, talking to me sideways, talking to me bad. This is not care. This, this is abnormal behavior. This is maladaptive behavior, right? And we have gotten cool with maladaptive behavior. We have gotten, okay, bad means good. That's how we function. Bad means good. Right means left. Up means down. All type of things that we are moving in directions that are not conducive for real life situations. And what we have been accustomed to doing, because we have been told and we have been rewarded with some type of praise, a positive reinforcement for bad behavior. We have gotten congratulations on bad behavior. Man, I wouldn't take that stuff from that girl, man. Girl, I wouldn't listen to that, saying this to that man, saying this to me and this and this. I wouldn't do that. I'd tell them what's on my mind if I was you, and all this old type of stuff. What comes up, come out. I said what I said, and all this old type of stuff here. That's bad energy. And we have seen these things play out in art, and life start imitating art, meaning we done seen this thing play out on the internet. We done seen these things play out in these reality shows and all these type of things here, to where bad behavior seem like that's the right way to go. I mean, when we was growing up, and at some point, this guy was probably, I think, a councilman or mayor of my city back in the day. It's Jerry Springer. I don't know if some of y'all might remember them. You remember that crazy behavior? He just come on, just automatically start fighting. Ain't nobody have no conversation and no dialogue or nothing. He just give them an opportunity. At one time, he give them like 30 seconds to go on and get to throw their hands, get out the way. And that type of behavior has really caught on and permeated in our society, to where some of this stuff is acceptable. And it's like we have really taken on some of these characteristics of demons. Out of email said once, a spiritual leader said once, they have this term YN, right? They shouldn't even call it. They have made that terminology, and I'm trying to show you how this thing catch on to how we have eye conflict personality traits. When we start talking about YN, we start saying this thing with a sense of affection for it. We say with some sense of, man, as if it's okay. When really we ain't talking about YD, why young devils. And that's how we act. And it's okay to be considered a YN, or you got women going around calling themselves bees and all this old type of stuff here, and it's okay, I'm the it's the fuck, I ain't to mess with, and all this old type of stuff here, and slapping their chest and doing all type of stuff, and rolling their head and all this. This is high conflict personality traits. I'm trying to show y'all what that is. This is high conflict personality traits. And that's an energy that is not necessary in having a conversation. And I want us to really start looking at how we can do something different with this. We have to, if we are going to succeed, if we're going to survive. Look, in our community, we have survived a lot of things. Let's just keep this 100. We survived the Middle Passage. We survived the slavery. We survived the Jim Crow. We survived a lot of things, but all those things were perpetrated on us. We are perpetrating these things on ourselves, and we think it's okay. And this is how this high conflict personality traits get in us. We have survived. I mean, we think because we have survived all this that we're going to continue to survive, and we're not surviving because we're teaching these things. We're teaching these things to our kids, and I'm saying each generation gets worse. Some of the stuff that I've done as a child was child's play compared to what some of these kids are doing nowadays. But guess what? You're teaching it to them. You're teaching it to them. And I'm saying this is how we continue to promote the negativity within our community, and we are the one who continues to slide. And you got other communities trying to emulate us, and it's so crazy. I'm sitting in a restaurant about a couple of weeks ago and listened to some Somali kids, and they're talking, and they talking just as like, oh my God, with no respect to the elders around them and everything. They just cursing, they talking. We're in a restaurant, and owner don't say, hey, put it down, keep it down, all this other type of stuff here. They're not doing any of that. And that's learned behavior. And so what you think you're doing? It's learned behavior. And you can relearn, you can unlearn this stuff and relearn something else. And that's what we're talking about here today. How to unlearn. I'm identifying a situation for us so we can identify it, see how we can unlearn. You take personal inventory in you and not just pointing a finger at looking at somebody else, but how many of these fingers are pointing back at you? Look at yourself. Also, when you're looking at someone else, how we could do something a little different in that. And change the behavior, change you first. The condition don't change until you change you first. I heard a spoken artist say, you won't change, but you won't change. And this is what's happening. You think it's going to be okay, and you don't put in the effort to change you. It starts with you. And I'm just trying to give us some pointers of how we can get better within ourselves. This ain't about pointing out somebody else to, Brother Hasan, he said this is not true. This is no different than at that point. You're looking no different than you going on the internet looking up somebody who, and then going to call them a narcissist. Because you're just using this information to point out somebody else's behavior. What about your own behavior? What about you? How you gonna pan out for you? At the end of the day, last day, whatever, however you looking at this thing, if you're Muslim, you're Christian, whatever you want to call your perspective book or what it's going to say, the last day is all about your judgment and how you gonna get judged and how you gonna get handled. And you have no excuses. My mama, my daddy, and my neighborhood, and all this old type of stuff here. There's no excuses because you have to have the ability to be able to correct you. And this is what we're talking about here. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at. I want to try to help us out. Again, we talk about positioning, making sure that we stay on target, stay on topic. Don't jump all over the place, and making sure that we're having good energy, and of course making sure that we're not moving the goalposts and allowing somebody else to move the goalposts on us, right? And if nothing else, remember this illustration of the rabbit hole. If you're not the lead rabbit, then the dirt is being thrown in your face. And you can't be the lead rabbit and then decide to want to take somebody down a bad road, down a bad hole, or something. That you still have to be responsible in that. So there's an accountability piece for being the lead rabbit. But if you're not the lead rabbit, you got dirt thrown in your face. And a person who has high conflict personality traits have no problem throwing dirt in your face. So that being said, thank you everyone for tuning in on this episode of Beyond Sight. Of course, I have a new book, uh, The Moment Effect, and this is I talked about this maybe a week or so ago. I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now, and you can find this book on Amazon at this point. It's going to probably be on my website, hasanclay.net, within a couple of weeks. I'm going to start selling it myself as well, so you can get the book, pick up the book there. But this is something that I believe is a good book, especially for men who kind of find themselves in serious situations where they can't really voice their thoughts or get their thoughts out, having a fear or even voicing their thoughts and things of nature there. And for sisters and for women, this is a book that you can kind of get an understanding of what some men go through. It's not a very heavy book. It's not a long book. It's not a large book. It's about 77 pages, some in that area there. And I tend to keep my books kind of small and short anyway, because I want you to read it, right? I don't want you to get it, set it on your coffee table and set it on your bookshelf and keep it there. I want you to read it. And so I try to keep it up under 100 pages a lot of times so you can read it. All right. And so, and with this book, I got a nice little story, a storyline between two guys, Omar and Sean. And I want you guys to just check it out. When you read it, get some commentary about it. You can definitely hit me up on my YouTube page at the Hasan Clay Experience. Please subscribe to that page as well. Subscribe to that channel. Instagram is the Hasan Clay Experience. Also TikTok, Hasan Clay Experience, and definitely on Facebook, Hasan Clay, and also on LinkedIn, the Hasan Clay. You can kind of leave some comments there, your thoughts about even what I said in this podcast. You can leave those thoughts there. If we're not trying to get better, we're not going to do better, y'all. And there are a multitude of people out there who have a lot of things to say, and that's okay. And if you're not listening to me, please listen to somebody who's going to give you some clear direction on how we can be better. I don't tend to act like I got all the answers. I just got a few, and I hope you listen to some of the few that I have, and maybe even learn from it, and even help me out in the process. But definitely every Monday at 7 p.m., y'all know what it is. Podcasts go out. And by all means, please share. Please subscribe. Please comment. I want to hear what you have to say. And so we can always get better here with Beyond Sight. So with that, thank you, of course. Thank you. And we're going to see you guys again next week at 7 p.m. Please have a prosperous week and have a safe weekend. And I want to see everybody here back on next Monday at 7 p.m. All right, y'all take